Hey there, welcome to the podcast. Welcome back. The new relaunch of the podcast, which is now the Conscious Podcast, not the Carlos Cirillo Show. This is a episode that I've been wanting to bring out for months now, and every time I went to do it, it just didn't feel right. And it didn't feel right in the sense of I wasn't at the place where I could share. I didn't have the peace in my certain situations in my life to share. I didn't know what the intention was of sharing. Like, I love doing this, but for me, there has to be a really true intention to it. And I just don't think I was in a place to share. And I've finally gotten to a place where I feel grounded, I feel at peace, and I feel excited to share this next chapter with you and everyone who wants to be a part of this journey. So first off, thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in, for choosing to tune in. I'm grateful that, I have a podcast that's been operating the past 6 years and, lots of downloads, lots of conversations over, I think it's nearly 170 episodes, whatever this is. And on top of that, a lot of connections, a lot of friends, and a lot of really beautiful memories that have been made from this. On top of that, I think even just the fact that I've been quiet, my last episode was back in January of this year. It's August now, so 8 months ago. And still every week I would get an email from my hosting being like 100 downloads, 200 downloads, 15 downloads. And I'd be like, why? What are people listening to? Like, I haven't been sharing anything, but it's really beautiful to see that, people are still getting value from these episodes. And for me, the past 18 months have been a journey. And to be honest, a shit show in so many ways. And although there's so much context to any story or any journey that someone goes on, there are a lot of things I can share. There's a lot of things that I won't share, partly because there are things in my life I do want to keep private. And, a couple of years ago, I'd be like, no, I have to share everything. That's being authentic. And it's like, no, being authentic is also knowing there's parts of your life that should remain yours. And as much as there will be things that I won't share, there are some beautiful lessons in the challenges that I've been through, some big realizations. And I guess in this podcast or this episode, I'd like to share where I was, who I was 12 months ago, what I did in those challenging times to help me take another step forward. I'll also, share a little bit about how difficult it was in those times. Where I am now and all the exciting things that are coming up for me and that have really landed and things that I want to share into the world. And I guess I'm excited to share this next chapter of my life, and I'm excited to be able to share that with other people because it feels really good. So if you're joining, enjoy, grab a cup of tea or cacao, whatever you have. I've got my little tea. What have I got? Just a green tea in my gratitude cup, grateful AF. So fun fact before we start, I made these cups for a Christmas present for all my friends. It was just like Vista print, really cheap cup, On one side it says grateful AF, and on the other side it says, what am I grateful for today? ? And then it has a list of like probably 30 different things. It's like life, friends, family, love, words, choice, color, sight, and then all these other ones. Carlo is in there, so people would think of me. And then all the way down the bottom is like you and now. What a beautiful reminder for everyone, but good reminder for me right now. So let's get stuck in. I haven't really rehearsed anything for this episode. I think the more that I thought about it, obviously the more ideas come out, and knowing what I know over the years of just sharing things. And yes, you should be prepared in a way of, I wasn't going to start this with low battery and no lighting and, not testing all the gear and stuff like that. But when it comes to speaking, I think I've known that, or I have this ability to, the words just come through. And I know that that can be seen as like, oh, just be intuitive. But I think for a conversation like this, it is, or does pay to be intuitive, because I know what I won't share, and I know what I want to share. I have a few points of reference to keep me on track. So this isn't a 6-part episode, but I'm really here to share my heart with you all. So let's take a journey back, 18 months ago, or let's even go even further back. Why I started this podcast in the first place was to share really incredible conversations that I get to have with people that not the everyday person gets to connect with. I am someone that is a connector. I love meeting new people. I love asking them deep questions, hearing their incredible answers, and finding out information and sharing that with others. I found such a love in this because it was just natural. I was always, even from, back in my network marketing days, I was always just connecting with people. And although at that point, my focus was on sales, it was more on the fact of, I just like connecting with people, whether they bought into that company or not, or the products. I love making friends, and especially quality friends that, you can lift each other up type thing and learn off. So this whole podcast journey has been making a lot of friends. Some of those friends some of those guests turned into friends, and some of those friends turned into business partners we run events with, we've collaborated with, and have become some of my lifelong friends right now. And some of the some of the listeners that have listened to this podcast have become really close friends of mine, whether they've come through my communities, my events, or even my program. It's just really beautiful to see that something that I love doing, getting information, sharing that with others to help them in their life in whatever way, whether it's, health, mindset, personal development, astrology, spirituality, overcoming hardship, resilience, any of these things that fall under the category of this podcast, consciousness. I love that you're able to listen to this and get something out of it. And I'm equally getting so much out of it. It's just really cool that I get to share it with everyone else as well. It's that whole added of like, oh my God, I wish this was recorded so that other people could hear this and get the information. Well, the good news is it is, and you're listening right now. So that's really cool. And I think that even for me, like, I listen to very few podcasts. There's only certain people that I can listen to and that I find a lot of value in, personally, just my flavor. And when I do listen to them, it's like, wow, I appreciate that I get to listen in on this conversation, because where else would I be able to listen to this? So I love doing this. I love bringing on amazing people too, so that everyone can learn. And I think the whole vision of this podcast and the conscious podcast was consciousness, which in its simplest form is awareness. The more you know, the more you can do. And the more we know, the more we can understand. The more we know and become more aware, the more we get to choose the life that we want to live. And one of my previous guests on the podcast, I think he's been on twice, Dr. Dane here from Access Consciousness, said the definition of consciousness is where everyone and everything exists and no one and nothing is judged. And to me, when I heard that, when I started to understand that, was like, wow, consciousness got put in this box of like being spiritual, and you're learning about conscious people. It's like everyone's conscious. Some are more conscious than others, but it's not a hierarchy of things. It's like you can create your life from a place of being somewhat unconscious or lacking consciousness, or you can consciously choose, these are the things I want to create in my life. And for me right now, it's creating this episode, this conversation, and this community. So again, let's go back about 18 months, because I feel like in the past 12 to 18 months, I've lived through things that a lot of people live through in their entire life. I feel like it just kept coming one after the other, and whether you call that my Saturn return that I'm experiencing, whether you call that turning 30, whether you call that, some spiritual awakening or death and rebirth, whatever terms and labels you want to put on it, it's been fucking hard. I know this just ticked over to explicit now, but I've met different feelings that I haven't felt in a long time. I've felt things that I never thought I would feel. I've been in places emotionally that I'd only heard about before, and I had to live through challenging moments that really made me have to stop and feel. And because there's been so many things that have happened, it's been like one after the other, it's really hard to articulate. And I'm trying not to get too emotional now, but like for me, I've been through heartbreak in many situations. Specifically losing my grandfather, my nono. You never want to lose anyone in your life. A grandparent, someone that's been in my life, my whole life. And for that to happen, I guess so suddenly, especially it was just on my 30th birthday that we were there, and he went into hospital, I think that day or a couple of days before, and then just never came out of hospital. And when you have to spend, I was at an event in Sydney, got flown in because they were like, it's gonna happen now. Flew in and he was already unconscious. We know that his soul was still there and was still hanging in, and being able to say goodbye, but not it being a reciprocated goodbye, if that makes sense. It wasn't a conversation. It was just like, okay, this is happening. And being around my family, it really put into perspective my values. It really put into perspective what matters in life. It really put into perspective what I truly value in this life. And among that, there's other situations that were still playing out that were making things even more difficult. So, a lot of background situations, and I say this in a way that there's always going to be the polarity of life, the duality. There's a lot of difficult or challenging that's happening, but there's also a lot of amazing and beautiful things happening at the same time. It's obviously our perspective on how we see it, but in the moment, because of what I've learnt, because of what I've done in my life, I was finding it really difficult to sit between the middle of everything, being really grounded. I was being torn between, this is really fucking hard, but I know this is part of the journey, and I'm grateful for the lesson because it's going to be great to write about this in a book one day. But also, why do I have to go through this? I never imagined that I'd have to feel this in my life or go through this. And, that pain, that grief that came from that situation and so many others that happened in that time were things that you could have told me about this. You could have warned me about it. I could have listened to podcasts about this, but nothing could have prepared me for those emotions. Seeing your loved ones, cry in heartbreak, like that to me really got to me. Turning 30, let's go to that. Like turning 30 in itself there was this weird 2 weeks before my birthday in April where I was like, this is I'm turning 30, and there was nothing wrong with turning 30, but I had this moment of like, oh, my 20s is over. And you start to think back on your 20s and you're like, did I do enough? Did I do this? Did I do that? And I'm like, I lived my 20s. And certain people around me at this age have got, different results in their life, as everyone does. And I started to compare, and I was like, oh, I don't have a house. I don't have this. I still have debt, and all of that. And then I'm like, hang on. I've had a podcast that's been running for 6 years. I've got to travel to incredible places. I've interviewed amazing people. I've had like 10 businesses. I've had 30 different jobs. I've traveled to so many different places. I've had a program with over 300 people that have come through my method. And I was like, man, I've actually done quite a bit with my life. I don't regret anything. But there was always still that moment of like, man, I'm turning 30. I don't get my 20s back. And I think it really grounded me in the fact that life is moving. No matter what you do, life is passing by. The day's going to pass, whether you're in a job that you like, whether you're in a job that you don't like, whether you're in a relationship that you like, or whether you're in a relationship you don't like, or whether you're single. The days are going to go past. And I did do some epic things in my life, and being able to reflect on my 30s, and I had a party. It was really fun. It was back in my hometown with my friends and cousins in Mildura, and we had an afro party because I had an afro growing up, like a massive afro. Was really beautiful, and to create those memories was really, really nice. And then jumping back, even be able to celebrate that, and then obviously as I mentioned, some things happened. But even before that, in February, I became a father, and it's been a very interesting experience to become a parent to a beautiful little boy. And it didn't happen in the ways that I thought it would, which challenged my ego. It challenged my emotions. And it, as much as I thought about it and I was like, I was excited to become a parent, it also came with a lot of jolting moments and a lot of things that I don't think people think about when you're becoming a new parent. And that's maybe a podcast for another time. But it's been an incredible experience to watch him grow and become, what is he, 5-6 months now. And I think that in itself is going to be a lifelong personal development journey, having a child and hopefully more children in the future. And yeah, so you've got this thing, you've got situations that were playing out before that even happened, to this, to my 30th, to some beautiful things happening in my life, to then some challenging things happening. And it's like there was just this roller coaster, and it was like, man, when am I ever going to get a break? And then you look at last year, like so many beautiful, challenging things. And I think that that things like this happen in life, right? We don't get to choose when the challenges happen. You can control so much in your life, but there's going to be so many things externally that happen that you can't control. And when you are faced with things that you can't control, I always go back to, can you do your best to control what you can in this moment, in this space? And for me, when I was going through those really challenging, difficult times, it was hard to put into place all the things that I had learned. And I knew, because it's not a matter of, I didn't know this, or there was trauma to be healed, or this or that. Like, sure, you can go down that rabbit hole, but it's a never-ending cycle. For me, it was, what do I need right now going through all of this? And I tried lots of things. I tried to, all the beautiful wellness things. I also tried some things that I wouldn't recommend, like, alcohol. I tried eating. I tried not doing anything, and they also served their purpose. Again, I'm not recommending these things, but in this period of my life, it was about feeling, and I found it really hard to share a lot of this with others. A select few got to hear everything that I was going through, but it was really it was really tough to share this because it was so close to my heart. It was affecting my life in so many different ways, and I didn't know how to share. I can talk and articulate quite well, I think. But everything that was happening, it was almost like one part of me wanted to just avoid and run away. I would have went to a different country, but I didn't. One part of me wanted to avoid everyone and avoid having to share this whole story of context for someone to actually understand. But the other side was, I don't even know how to articulate what I'm going through or what I'm feeling. I rang Beyond Blue, I think, which is a helpline in Australia, twice, just to be like, I'm feeling this. I don't need any advice. I just want someone to validate it. I just want someone to say that it's going to be okay. And it did help. I think there are so many people on social media that say things in such black or white, like, if this happens, do this, or if this happens, don't do that. And it's like, when you're going through the shit, when you're going through the most challenging times in your life, I don't think there's an answer that anyone can give you that's going to be the right answer. I think sometimes you just need to try things, and maybe that thing is doing nothing. Maybe that thing is just feeling. I know for me, I at my old place had a little portable sauna in the garage because I love saunas, and it was a steam sauna, and I just used to sit and cry. I would sit there for 20, 30 minutes, however long my body would handle, right? And maybe that was a form of torture when I look back at it. But anyway, I felt like in this black little tent, I was able to be alone. I felt like I was able to feel. I felt like I was doing something that just allowed me to just be super present. Eventually, after doing that so many times, I introduced certain podcasts and sometimes some binaural beats and stuff like that. But for a lot of the time, it was just in silence. It was just listening to the steam come through. It was the most simplest things. And I'm not saying you have to go out and buy a sauna. That was just my thing, right? It was creating stillness in the way that I could. And as much as, like I said, I would have loved to have flown to Bali, be in stillness in Bali, or driven home to my parents 6 hours away. I had work. I couldn't do that. But in the moments where I could find it, I paused. And I didn't meditate. I didn't do breath work. I didn't do any of these things that I have preached for years. And I think all of those things were beyond my body and mind's capability. And this is why I say sometimes, social media or, certain advice that people give you can say, you need to do this, you need to do that. For me, I needed to just be still. I needed to, or I wanted to, or I felt like just sitting in stillness. And for me, that's where I felt like I started to understand myself. I started to understand my situation. I started to find the answers that I needed. And it was only in stillness I could find that. It was only in surrendering to everything that was happening, because I did go through the victim mentality. I did go, why is this happening to me? I've done all these things to help people in my life. Why the fuck do I have to go through this again? And this and this, why does it keep stacking on? And there's the other side where, the I guess, quote unquote, toxic side would be, oh, it's your mindset and that's victim mentality and you need to think better than that. And all of that is, take responsibility, and all of that is great. Right? But it was too much for my my mind to comprehend at that point. And as much as I did take responsibility, I was like, the only reason I'm in these situations is because I chose certain things and I didn't choose other things. But also, there are things that are happening to me, right? And as much as they were not things that I wanted or thought that were beneficial to me in my life or anyone really, I also knew that they were going to lead to something great or lead to something that brought me more understanding and peace. Now, I'm not going to say it brought me to the place where I was like, everything's happening for me. Yes, in some ways, yes, I do believe that, right? It is happening for you. But what sitting in silence allowed me to do was sit to a point where you just have to accept that everything that's happening is happening. Not putting judgment on it, because trust me, I put so much judgment on myself that became a very, very negative spiral, and it was not nice to be in. So I tried to release that judgment. For me, I started praying. Whether for me, it's like I pray to my guides, I pray to God, I pray to Jesus, I pray to whatever guidance that I have, right? And I think I had to get to this place, and you can call it a rock bottom, you can call it to, broken, a death, a rebirth, whatever these fancy terms you want to call it. It was a moment in my life where, because I didn't create those spaces for stillness and to feel, and I'd been running on, adrenaline for 2 years. I was running events every weekend. I remember at a time 2 years ago where we were running cacao parties on like a Saturday, finishing at like 2 a.m. I'd drive home, or 1 a.m., drive home, that's an hour and a half, sleep for like 3-4 hours, get up, go to Altona, get all the ice, run an ice bath for, whether it was 15 people or 80 people on the beach, show up for that for 3 hours, and then, just keep doing that week after week. And it was like, man, this is crazy. I think with Cold and Conscious, the breathwork and ice baths down at the beach, I think, I was for 2.5 years, like super consistent. And all my other events in the meantime, meditations and showing up and programs and live shows and all these things. And as much as they are beautiful, I loved them. They came with, so much reward for myself and the others there. You could say burnt out, but I gave so much that I showed up for everyone else but myself. And when you do that for so long, you eventually get to a point where you do break down. You do hit a ceiling, you do crumble. And when you add on top of that the emotional situations that I wasn't facing, maybe avoiding, the soul drive that I was ignoring, the physical things that I wasn't doing for my health and my body and my sleep and all those sorts of things, I think it just all came into a really tough, challenging, rock bottom moment. And this didn't last a weekend as much as I would have loved for it to. It lasted a long time, and I say 12 to 18 months, and yeah, it just kept happening, and I was in survival. I was doing whatever I could to get by, whether that was energy-wise, whether that was showing up for certain things I'd committed to, whether that was taking on clients for things that I'd never done before, or didn't do as much of. I worked jobs, I got jobs, I went to, an interview for a full-time job. As much as my soul was like, don't do this, it's like, no, you're a father now, financial stability and stuff like that. And yeah, I think I did whatever I could. And at the same time, through taking those moments of stillness, it gave me the answers that I was never going to get from listening to everyone else. Now, that's not that they weren't going to give me the same advice. It's that no one's advice was going to help me in that moment. No one's advice was needed. When I would share and open up to someone, if someone was like, you know what I think you should do or you need to do, that was the last thing I wanted or needed to hear in that moment, right? I didn't need anyone's advice. I needed to sit and feel and listen. And I can tell you now, in that space, I come to some crazy revelations in my life, but also got the answers that I needed. And I think that, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but myself being on social media, I took myself off in terms of I just didn't post, right? I'd been so consistent for 8 years and I took myself off everything, hosting events, podcasts, meditations, everything. I just took a step back and noticed that I, again, was showing up for everyone else, but not myself, but also I was consuming everyone else's opinions and views and this and that. There's nothing wrong with anyone else's advice or opinions or how they do things or business or this, but especially social media for me, how I see it is that there's two sides to it, right? There's this beautiful side where you can connect with people and you can get really inspired. Like if you're in my gratitude little group thing, I'm always sharing something inspiring in there. I think that's really beautiful. And I've also got my friends and family on there, like people that, I played soccer with over in Europe that are still my great friends, or people that don't live near me, or just, it's a beautiful way to share photos, right, of life. So many people around me got kids and this and that and dogs and blah. But the other side is that there's a lot of people marketing their business, marketing themselves, marketing this and that. And yes, I do see there's a side where this is authentic and there's a side that really isn't authentic and it's quite dangerous. But also a lot of people are trying to push across what they think is best and what they think is right, especially, about politics or this or that. And for me, it was I don't care. I don't care about someone's marketing. I don't care about what they think is the 5 steps to this. And if I listen to all those things and follow all these people, of course I'm not going to be listening to myself. Of course I'm not going to be listening to my soul. I'm not going to be hearing the answers within, because I'm trying to find it without. You can listen to so many podcasts and learn a lot of information, in quotation marks. But are you actually internalizing it, and is it useful for you right now? And I've seen this in myself. I've seen it in other people as well. I jumped from modality to modality. I love learning, right? So learned all these things, but what's really been effective for me isn't the amount of ice baths that I've done, isn't the amount of things that I've learnt or people that I've interviewed or programs that I've done or masterminds I've been a part of. What helped for me is bringing my life back to the most simplest form that I could. And that was challenging because when I had to just sit and feel and listen, everything got shown to me. All the good, all the not so good. And that was the stuff that I'd been avoiding. And I think it's easy to get lost in all the things that are out there and all the things that I need to do. And they're saying to do this, and this is the new fad, and this is the new thing. Humans have evolved for millions of years. Or thousands of years, whatever it is, right? Don't quote me. But the thing that has always happened is humans have evolved. And whether you judge someone as woke or unwoke or conscious or unconscious, whatever it may be, our species has evolved. And that's only happened through everyone experiencing everything they experienced in their life. If it was any different, things would have been different, right? And one thing I love from Peter Crone is that everything that's happening in your life is, reality. And you can't argue with reality. It's happening. And if it was supposed to be different, it would have been different. But this is what happened. And, I look back on my life and it's like, I can't take back the past 18 months. Do I wish things had happened differently? Sure. But that's also me holding on to, it should have been different. Like, why should it have been different? It taught me what it taught me. And all I can do is be the alchemist, which is take what it is I've experienced and now move forward with it. And if I'm able to do that, then I have the power, if that makes sense. I have the ability to create the life that I want to create, or create the story, or rewrite the story. So, yeah, the past 18 months was a journey. I don't wish anyone to go through it, but also I know that eventually you might have to go through it, or you know what? You will go through it. Is that wrong? No. It's just part of the journey. And I think what rings true to me, as much as, we do personal development, we do all this healing to get to a certain place, we're never going to avoid the life experiences that we need to have in our life. And you can call that your soul contract, or you can look at it in your astrology, whatever you wish to do. I think it's just going to be part of it. And the more that we can find peace in that, the more that we can understand, like essentially I was or had to get to a place of, was this is happening whether I like it or not. And I can choose to show up in this way or this way. I can choose to let it affect me in this way or this way. And me being here right now and sharing this with you is me choosing to move forward from it. As much as I want to just give up. Yeah, you heard me. When people say, I never had this ounce of me that wanted to give up. Bullshit. My bullshit meter's too high right now. I think everyone has a moment where they're like, it's so much easier to not do this. It's so much easier to just... I look at this right now and there's no right or wrong. I think there's no right or wrong here. You going and living a life where you're, even if it's... let's take a wild example. Living on a farm and just growing vegetables and going to a job, blah, 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 and earning this amount. There's nothing wrong with that. I got sucked into, you need to be an entrepreneur and a business owner, freedom, laptop lifestyle, 4-hour work week, all those things that are good things. They're not bad things, but what actually truly matters. And while I was going through all this, I actually relaunched my program, The Conscious Blueprint. And because I was like, I haven't done this in so long, but that was something that gave me so much joy. While I was doing it, I changed it a bit, but I also did it myself at the same time as I was teaching it. Because the teachings aren't, they're not revolutionary, right? We go through learning gratitude, how to practice deep forgiveness, to let go of the shit we've been holding on to, discovering your purpose, your soul purpose, identifying your top values and why, creating an identity around that, and how to show up in that, creating a vision for your life, and then taking action on that, right? It's not these crazy things that people are talking about now that you need these codes or this or that or that or this blah, blah, blah. It's simplicity. I think all of my teachings, all my meditations, everything was just really simple. And for so long I thought that, oh no, that's not good enough because it's not this fancy new fad and this. But it's been the one thing that's lasted through everything, is the simplicity. So I went through the program at the same time that I was mentoring other people through it. And it's beautiful because it's a space where I got to share and they got to support me through these moments as well. But at the same time, I reconnected with gratitude. I reconnected with my values. And when I got so clear on those, I was like, well, they're not different, right? Here's the thing. They're not different to what they were 2 years ago. Slightly. But the thing is that I wasn't living in those values. I wasn't choosing from those values. No wonder why I felt so shit for so long. Because I teach this stuff and I wasn't even putting it into practice myself, right? I'd fallen off that path. Then when I got so clear on them again, I was like, wow. And I started implementing from there, right? I started showing up in those. I started to feel good again and I started to make progress. That showed me that this is actually really simple and you have the answers. It's whether we're listening to those things or we're not. So I started to listen to myself. I did my program, and no ego here, and I'm never someone to toot my own horn, but it is fucking awesome. And that's the reason why I still get messages from people all the time. Recently, I really needed to hear those messages, and people reached out and they were like, I'm still seeing effects from it, blah, blah, blah. This isn't a promotion for it. And, you know, I think pulling myself away from everyone and everything, all these events and expectations that I had in life and in business and all of this, I was able to listen to myself. I was able to hear those answers. And, you know, one of the things that I did do was do my gene keys, and that was amazing. But also just come back to what's most important in my life and what I want to do and share in this world. And that's what leads me to where I am now, which is this new chapter of my life. And I was thinking about what I would call this chapter of my life. And I think it would be the evolution or the rebirth or something along those lines. I should have brainstormed this beforehand, but it's the beginning of the new path, the new beginning. And it feels really good. To bring back this podcast feels really good. And when I was thinking of a name, do I go back to the Carlo Cirillo show? I had a reading with my friend Adriana, who's a psych medium in the business space. And she's like, dude, the conscious podcast, the conscious collective, everything's above you. I'm seeing all of that. That was you. And unfortunately, for certain reasons, I had to close that a couple of years ago. And I felt very lost since doing that. And I'd tried to put my efforts and find my way in other people's communities. I helped them do what they were doing. And that was beautiful because I did find community. I did find new skills in those places. Even in Sala, my own wellness company, brand, movement. But it never quite felt right. And, you know, coming back to the Conscious podcast feels right. It feels good. You know, interviewing people that I think have value to share, not people that are famous on Instagram from fake following, and interviewing people for the likes and shares and all these types of things. People that I genuinely go, that's a story to share and they have something to teach. So stay tuned for those because they're really, really epic. Then the community. And I didn't know a name. I tried, you know, the mindset mentor, the modern mentor, like so many different names. But the conscious collective. And don't get me wrong, this has been taken by so many other people since my when I had it. But what I loved about it was everything I wanted to re-emulate. It was a community of like-minded people. It was events, meetups, check-ins. It was, you know, fun stuff. It's almost like, you know, when you're part of a church, and if, you know, whether you are or whether you aren't, no judgments, yeah, it's whatever you believe in. But when you're part of a church or a religion, you believe in it and you show up to church every Sunday, right? I remember when I grew up Catholic, going to church and with my nonna, and you know, you'd go. It was a non-negotiable, and you would connect with people, and you'd be with like-minded people, and you would grow together and just live together, right? Live as in experience life together. And I love that aspect of community. And I never, I see it now as it's a commoditized thing where, you know, all these school things and communities and this and that. And it's what I feel like. I remember we used to do pizza in the park. We used to do a beach catch up. We used to do, we did wellness events as well. But we did so many other things. I think we did, not karaoke, but we did where you listen to a little bit of a song and then you have to trivia. We did trivia nights in COVID, and these were just free things that I ran because it was just like, I care about people and I want to bring us together. And so all those things are happening. I will be running workshop style things around Australia again. That was something that I did a couple of years ago and I loved it. I think it was just amazing. And I have so many amazing friends in different places, and I think I'm excited to collaborate with them. And then also the blueprint, you know, my program that I created 5 years ago. It's something that I think, and I've never really said this out loud, right? Because it always felt so cringe. But now I'm actually really believing. I knew it was powerful. I knew it was a really fucking good program for someone wanting to take their first step in personal development, in creating the life they want to live, gaining more confidence and clarity and love and trust in their life. But I've actually realized that it's much more powerful than I thought. And I want a lot of people to experience this. I want, you know, I don't have a number, right? I don't have million or this many. I want people to experience this program to discover who they really are. And that's ultimately what I believe my purpose is to help people connect back into who they really are so that they can create a life that they love. And that's not found through fads and the next social media trend and what, you know, these people are saying, and it shouldn't cost you tens of thousands of dollars. It's coming back to what's really simple and really true. And if we can't sit and listen, we won't find it. And that has been a reoccurring theme in my life. And especially over the past, 12 to 18 months, it's been, I feel, thrown in my face to show me that that's where you find the answers, Carlo. And I'm going to keep teaching or showing you the lesson until you learn it and embody it. And being the person that I am, I want to share that with others. And that's through the program. And I'm excited because I've got new dates. September is the next 8-week program where I group mentor people through these stages and phases. Starting in September, the community will be a app on Circle, which is really exciting. There'll be one section for people that just want to experience the discussions and the wellness and be a part of the workshops and whatever. But then there'll be an extra side, which is a membership that you get the guidance from me, and there'll be events 5 times a year that you get to be a part of. And, when you do, let's say my program, or be a part of this community, it's like, I'm welcoming you in as family. I'm not doing this like everyone else. I'm doing it the way that I want to do it, and I'm doing it in the way that feels good to me. And that's where I went wrong for so many years, as I tried to listen to other people saying, you should do it this way, you should do that, or you need this, or you need reoccurring income, or blah, 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 blah. The shiny objects got too shiny for me. And I went away from 1, what was working, 2, what was really impactful in people's lives, and 3, what I really enjoyed. So again, the lesson is to simplify things back to its simplest form, that's most intentional, that's most impactful. Even in the way that I'm speaking now is so different to how I was a couple of years ago. I used to be the excited little Energizer bunny. Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. Blah, 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 blah. Mate, maybe it's my me turning 30 and my emotional maturity. I'm here to share from a place of good intention. And I'm not going to copy the trends of social media or the algorithm or what everyone else is doing. I'm going to do things my way, because when I'm doing it my way, it's coming from my heart, it's coming from my truth, and it's coming from my purpose. And that's what matters most to me, and that's what I know will be the most effective. Maybe the most profitable? I don't know. Like, it's the aim is not through that. For me, it's being intentional. And with my purpose, it will hopefully be felt by you and everyone else that is part of everything that I do. So, introducing the new Carlo is really exciting. And if you've stayed around this long in the episode, I'd love if you could, 1, subscribe, that always helps. 2, leave a review. But 3, reach out to me. Send me a DM, especially on the podcast page, the Conscious Podcast on Instagram. Send me a DM. Share your experience. Maybe you can relate. Maybe you can't. Maybe you have felt similar things, or maybe you're just excited for everything that's coming up. Or maybe you want to be a part of the community or the program or anything. I just reach out. If you've gotten to this point in this podcast, there's obviously something that's keeping you here. And whatever it is, I'm grateful, because it's always shared energy. Whether, I don't know who you are or I don't ever get to meet you, I'm grateful. And everything I do and share is to lift the hopes of everyone around me, is to inspire people to enjoy this life, even amongst the times that are most tough and hard to enjoy, but to realize that they're not alone on this journey, and that, everything is happening for them to be the true version of themselves. Quote that. But also have fun along the way. I want to have a laugh. I do joke around a lot, but I also think that that's my lighthearted nature of, we're also supposed to enjoy this journey. Otherwise, why did we sign up to it? So, thank you for being part of this. I hope to share some more episodes of value to you in the future, and I'm excited to be on this journey with you. So, take care, everyone. Peace.